When I have gotten an interview with someone and the story is printed, immediately I send them the link to the story. It's called media relations. And I say that to people that work inside organizational communications in terms of how we used to do our work. It needs to be the same on the side of the reporter and the editor.
Absolutely.
It's showing you're being gracious. It's showing you got home training, for one. But it's building the relationship so that they will think about you in the future. I remember one of the first meetings I came to last fall when I started working here was after Kevin and Denise met with folks over at Howard. And we had a problem with Howard in terms of perhaps how they saw the black press. Fast forward to where we are now. And what I'm about to say, I'm not going to attribute everything to us, but because of the protests over at Howard, first of all, Dr. Frederick was enlightened about his behavior and his attitude, not only about everything, which to me spilled over into how he perceived the black press. I already had contacts over at Howard, and I learned that the way that we were going about trying to get access to stuff was not the right way. But who was going to tell us that? Except for somebody that I know that's assistant professor over at Howard, who told me, you don't have to go through campus communications to get to me, you can call me directly. You can call every professor directly. And then the last thing was that, the last thing that I learned in terms of even Howard, and this surprised me yesterday, whenever I've done stories related to Howard, I always would follow back up with the communications person. And I'm always putting stuff up through my Twitter account. When I tag the Informer for stories about Howard, stuff that I think we just want to be aware of. Well, guess who started following me yesterday?
Who?
President Frederick.
Yeah.
He's tweeting out every day. So, but look how long that took. When was that meeting? Last fall. You just have to be diligent, know what your desired end result is. Try your best not to ruffle feathers. I'm like, if I fuss at them, that's not going to get us anywhere. So let me figure out another way to impress upon folks our value. Our value. And that's why I said what I said about John Singleton when I did that email. And my thing was, they have to make decisions within a 24-hour period of what's going to give them the biggest bang for the buck. It just may not be us. I totally get that. I've been on both sides of the table in terms of trying to position entertainers and CEOs for interviews. But I've also been on the reporter end. It was like calling them every day, emailing them, being up in their face, trying not to be a complete nag, but I'm a borderline nag, to make sure they know who we are. And then, it doesn't work out. Sorry, it didn't work out. Here's our information. I would like to remain in touch. Because it was the handlers that made the decision.
Right.
And those handlers are handling more than John Singleton. They're handling a whole bunch of other people too. So let's try to, and the same thing has happened with Strathmore. Strathmore tried to blow us off for Herbie Hancock, but I got in. And I will tell you this, that I've now been able to work with them to do the Diana Ross.
And that's how Wolf Trap always picks me up now. The same thing.
You got it.
It is trial by fire. You keep on and keep on.
Keep on.
I think part of it also, and with the Shakespeare, the people that do Shakespeare, I think that they were they just could not believe the fact that I could actually write about Shakespeare. Because I'm a black guy. This black guy with the earrings, filming, what don't know nothing about no Shakespeare. They didn't know that's why I studied at University of Michigan. So I know Shakespeare, up and down, back and forth, and we studied in high school. I did 8 years of Shakespeare, year after year after year. So sometimes they believe it until there's proven otherwise, and then you have to stay on them to demand, now that you've shown that you have a certain level of excellence, and now I get stuff from them way too early. about coming. I'm going to see Rolling on Juliet a couple of days. And sometimes I won't even put it in paper. I may put it on the web on purpose. It's just the fact of us keeping a constant presence. And one thing I want us to just think about, which is not necessarily about the doors being blocked, although that example that we ran into last week when we were going to have the people from, what's the show, Snowfall, and they canceled that day, within 2 hours of coming over, I was fit to be tied. I said a whole lot of bad words to others. Expletive, but what happens in all that is like Brenda said, I know what happened. They got a call about someone wanting to have the cast and Singleton and all of them there, so they blew us off. That's what you were talking about, Singleton there?
Yeah.
They blew us off.
Yeah.
I know what happened, and I don't know if any of I was going to protest the show and blast it first with them. Brenda and I both kind of talked about it. She was going to do it. We were going to tag team for the interview.
Office, yes.
But what happened is, I said, you know what, Brenda? I think this is something that was way beyond their control, and all they're being told is you're going to go here, you're going to go there, because oftentimes people don't even know their own schedules. There's someone else is doing that, and truth of the matter, when white folks doing it, they often don't tell the subjects. They just say you're going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they do that, and so you've got to sometimes you got to find who that person is. It's the minions at the door. I've been trying to get them last night for 3 years now.
Right.
But these folks, and some of it's fear. They don't want you to get in, because if you get in and you start to, and they're not needed, then what do they do? Because most of them have no other skin.
Been closed.
Well, I think the terrain has changed enough where folks aren't being the professionals that they used to be. And the reality is, years ago, every communications office in DC that wanted media to come to their events used to have an annual event, usually at the beginning of the year, where they would invite every media person so they knew who they were contacting and we knew who they were. So it was
every year when I worked at United Way.
right. So they would literally call the newspaper office and say, "Can you tell us who the editors are? Who handles lifestyle? Who handles this? Who handles that? Can we have their email addresses and their phone numbers so that we can ensure we're sending out press releases and invitations in a timely fashion?" And the other part of that is they stopped doing that. There's a quick changeover in PR and publicity offices now, if they even have them. Most organizations don't even keep their publicity offices. They call it communications now, and it entails 30 different jobs, where it used to be something very, very dedicated. We want to court the press. We want to make sure the press is happy. Not so we can get positive feedback, but so we can have access to the people that they actually represent. The other part of it that the newspapers aren't necessarily doing. Ms. Sala's right. I mean, pay attention. We used to send tear sheets, but I used to walk my tear sheets. I still walk my tear sheets out. I go get the little cubes of Sugarfina, and I take physically the newspapers to these people and thank you so much, with a little note. Thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me. We're talking to nurses and doctors who are on call, and so it means something to them, so that next time they know who the informer is, they know exactly who to contact and all of that. The problem is we become celebrity heavy. It's also a very incestuous business where it's a lot of folks who use their cousin, a relative, anyone who can fill those seats and not necessarily the press. Yeah. So the idea is still that the black press is less than. It's they're going to take shortcuts. They aren't serious about the work. When the reality is we've just been basically kind of conscripted.
Do I know how to do that?
To the back page, to the back seats, to the balcony, because it's believed that we don't have what it takes to get the job done.
What would you say about when they say that the newspapers are obsolete, and so they don't really need to talk to a newspaper. They want to talk to somebody that they know is going to turn it around right now and get it up on the web, and then that's something we can do. But
the reality is, unless it's something that's trendy, if we're talking about things that actually impact the black community, chances are it didn't happen today for the first time. And today, if it happened, it won't be the last time that it happens. The only organizations that know how to handle these things are the folks who've been doing it for 50 years. So if you have black newspapers who've encountered the racism, the bigotry, the housing issues, the employment issues, the differences in leadership just in DC alone, the gentrification, this isn't the first time DC has been hit with gentrification, then don't use us just as a prop. Don't call us out like you're calling 911 to help you when you're in need, but all the rest of the time you don't know that we're here. You won't respect the fact that this is the paper that you want to actually hear your voice, to show that you know what you're talking about, to fight and advocate on your behalf. Don't use us. And so that for me is part of my gripe. The black paper has been there. A lot of times we have the best writers on the planet, but we aren't getting paid like the best writers on the planet. All right? And then to turn around and tell us we can't have access to things because you're a non-traditional paper, you're not a mainstream paper. We're not second-class citizens, but we are fitting a specific niche. Which still requires, just like a HBCU, there are things that we do that no other newspaper can do.
In terms of how we educate others, the communications folks, the PR folks, our value, but also how we work. A lot of them don't understand that we're a weekly paper and what that means and what the deadline is. The other thing is, even though we are a weekly paper, we're not limited to that. We have an online presence. So there may be something that we can do before the paper comes out on Thursday. And that needs to be a part of our conversation in terms of educating others, in terms of how we actually function.
But then they say too, I've heard that you're not a wire service, but don't we are part of a wire service.
Yes, but I'm sorry, I've been here now for almost 9 months. I have no idea how that happens with NNPA. So we need to be educated as journalists here. What gets posted to NNPA? What are the parameters? My thing with the prostate cancer story was that I was the one that connected them with Freddie. And Freddie was the one that pushed that out to all of the member newspapers. And I straight up told the PIOs over at the National Institute of Health, I said, I'm not sure of the timing of when Freddie can get it up. I said, but we're right here in DC. We can always do a story. We don't have to wait for NNPA. That's just another level or another opportunity through to getting to the black newspapers. And there was great representation on that call. But again, I felt that we added value to the National Cancer Institute by reaching out to Freddie, and in particular Lauren, because I couldn't get through to Freddie, to say, I think this is important, this is a national story, and all the newspapers need to be aware of it. So there are things that we can do within our black newspaper network to raise the value of what it is we have to offer.